What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Today it is my first transfer plan. It's just 3 weeks left. It is game week 36. Welcome back to another video, everyone. FPL Harry here, and today it is game week 36. It is my first transfer plans. Double game week 36, double game week 37, then the final day of the season, game week 38. We have just 3 game weeks left to be looking and sort of making ground on our overall rank and be making ground on our mini league rivals. Today, first transfer plans. A little timestamp. I'm recording just before the Nottingham Forest Southampton game on Monday evening because there is very little implication from an FPL perspective. But I'm recording just as Brighton have lost 5-1 to Everton. One of the most unpredictable results I think we've seen in quite a long time. Of course, our Brighton defenders, if you have Steele, there was no goal there. Plus Estupiñán getting none. Plus Dunk, if you have him, getting -1. In midfield, McAllister getting a goal while he was sat on the floor. He was unlucky not to get returned slightly earlier. Matoma picking up the assist. March, again, didn't start, and we'll talk about him, and I have him in my lineup. Then going off injured, again, looks like quite a bad injury. So it was an awful day at the office for Brighton. A lot of us have their assets. They double in game week 36 and they double in game week 37 as well. So it has thrown plans a little bit out of the window. We might discuss what we think we should do with Brighton in just a moment. Before we dive in, we've already got a bit of an intro there, but please make sure you've liked the video. We're going to try and hit 1,000 on it. Thank you all for 55,000 subscribers. If you are new still, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. But our starting 11, we have quite a few benching dilemmas. So this is how it currently lines up. I've currently gone with Kepa in goal at home to Nottingham Forest. I am going to watch Nottingham Forest against Southampton, but I just think the save potential, the bonus potential for Kepa is better than we have Ederson going away to Everton, who have just scored 5 goals. So currently backing going Kepa over starting Ederson. Again, Ederson not looking that great. They are leaking goals, plus Everton looking very good. In defence, it is a full double game week defence, but we have Estupiñán with a difficult double away at Arsenal and Newcastle. Botman and Trippier I'm happy with, although they're not keeping that many clean sheets at the moment. And then the 2 defenders I have on my bench in Trent Alexander-Arnold away at Leicester, a great fixture. And then Luke Shaw at home to Wolves, another great fixture, although they are both single game weeks. This feels like the classic single game week versus double game week debate conundrum that we always have. Do we favour a proven asset that has a good single game week, or do we go for the upside of a double game week player? This is particularly the case with Estupiñán and maybe Botman as well, both of which I think not that much upside with them, but they do of course have the double game week this week. Into midfield we have March, who looks like he's going to be out for a while. I'm going to have to end up selling him. We have Matoma as well. We have Mo Salah, Bruno Fernandes, and then Marcus Rashford in there with their singles, and then currently Erling Haaland and Ollie Watkins up front in a 3-5-2. I've got 2 free transfers, not much money to play with, but I do have 2 free transfers, which does allow me to sort of maneuver March to whoever I want. And of course, I only have double Newcastle for their double game week this week. So the obvious thing, of course, I need to address is Solly March, who looks like he's gone off with a hamstring injury. Even before the match in the press conference, De Zerbi said that March is not in his best moment when talking about his fitness and talking about other injured players. So he was obviously not fully fit, which is why he didn't start the last game. And then he didn't start again today, which was a bit of a surprise. He came on at half-time, which was maybe more minutes than they expected to need him to get. And then towards the end of the game, he looked like he pulled his hamstring and he's gone off. I do still think I'll make the sideways move from March to McAllister. I could go to a Newcastle midfielder, but I still want a Newcastle forward in my team. I could go to another cheap midfielder in my team, but the issue is I don't have very much money in the bank, so I would have to be choosing a cheap midfielder, and none of them are really better than Brighton and McAllister, who do still have 5 fixtures to play with 2 double game weeks and then the final day of the season as well. So it's a transfer I didn't really want to have to make, and before March got injured, I think I was going to hold on to March. But I think just moving sideways makes the most sense over going for a Newcastle midfielder because I want one of their forwards, and over going for someone else in and around that cheap price just because of the amount of fixtures Brighton do still have. So bearing in mind that I do have 2 free transfers, I do have a second transfer lined up, and this is probably the big talking point of this week. Well, before the Brighton match, it was the big talking point of this week, and that was Ollie Watkins out to either Alexander Isak or Callum Wilson. Watching the game against Arsenal and watching the highlights there, I'm currently favouring going with Isak. Didn't look like it completely worked, playing both of them in the starting lineup together from the start. So I am expecting maybe one start from each of them. I do think Isak still showed a little bit of threat, even starting in that left wing. So if they do start together, I don't think Wilson is going to play both in the double. Isak definitely has a higher chance of playing both. So that's why I'm favouring Isak at the moment. If they were to play the exact same amount of minutes, then Wilson is the better pick. However, looking at it, I don't think Wilson will play as many minutes in this double as Isak will. So I favour him as a little bit of a safer pick. Now, it's also worth bearing in mind that the Newcastle Leeds game is the early kickoff in game week 36. So we might get early team news on who's going to start up front. If we hear that both of these two start, I will probably then end up buying Callum Wilson. If we hear that just one of them start, then of course I will go and buy the one that I think starts. It's just that I'm not necessarily sure that Callum Wilson is going to start in that fixture away to Leeds in the early kickoff in game week 36, which makes me think Isak will, and that's probably where I'll end up going. Now, I did also consider a -4 to go and get both Wilson and Isak into my team. This is thrown a little bit out of the window after the injury to Solly March because I'm going to have to use a transfer on him, which means this would now move from a -4 up to a -8. But I do still think it's worth discussing because I do still think there's a little bit of upside on that. The transfers would be Ollie Watkins and Dominic Solanke to Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak. And to do that, I would have to free up a little bit of money. Now, I could downgrade Trippier and I could go to anyone basically 4.8 or under. I look at Pedro Porro. I basically don't like any of the defenders. Unfortunately, because of price changes, I can't afford a Manchester City defender like Ake, who's now injured, but now Akanji would probably be the cheapest that I'd be able to get to. But because of price changes, I couldn't go there. So it would have to be Pedro Porro. I could go for an Arsenal defender, but Ben White's seen a price rise. So there aren't really any nailed options in there. The other option that maybe then makes sense is downgrading Botman to basically the cheapest defender in the game in Bueno. Now, I know Bueno doesn't necessarily get in the team a lot and he doesn't always start, but I can't afford anyone more expensive than a 3.8. And you have to then bear in mind that with the March transfer, I do need 0.2 to go and upgrade him to McAllister. So some of these transfers actually become even more difficult. I did really like the idea of double Newcastle attack. I don't think it's going to be possible for my team. It would be a -8, which I don't want to be taking at this point in the season. However, if you have the ability to go for Wilson and Isak with a maximum of a -4 and you are selling players that you don't want from your team, I think it's worth it. I think the upside is there against a Leeds team that don't look great, against a Brighton team at home that have just conceded 5 goals. Plus, Brighton have 2 double game weeks in game week 36 and 37, and that Newcastle fixture is right in the middle of it, so they could be very tired going into that one. I don't think it fits my team anymore. It would be a -8 at a minimum to go and get both of them in, but if you have the ability to do it, I think I would. So this is how my team looks for game week 36 at the moment. Again, I've got March in there, yellow flagged. I then also have that big defense dilemma, the benching dilemma, and in goal. I'm pretty certain I'm just going to use 2 transfers. I'm going to do March to McAllister, and then I'm going to do Watkins to a Newcastle forward, and it will just depend on who starts in that game against Leeds at the weekend. I will be waiting for early team news on that one. I might wait for injury news on March, but I can't see him playing anytime soon. I can't see him playing any minutes in the Dublin game week 36, probably 37. And to be honest, his season is probably over looking at the injury that he did sustain. So March to McAllister feels almost nailed on. Then I will do Ollie Watkins to a Newcastle forward. Captaincy will probably land on the Newcastle forward as well. It could end on McAllister. He's doing well, but Arsenal and Newcastle away is a difficult double. Then all that really leaves me to do is decide on what defenders to start. Would you go with the doublers? A lot of you considering benching your Brighton defenders for either Trent or Luke Shaw as well. Let me know who you would start. I'm really struggling in defence to go and decide what I'm going to do there. So let me know what you think about my team. Would you do McAllister? Would you go someone else? Would you go Isak or Wilson? At the moment, I'm on Isak, unless we know Wilson starts against Leeds. Drop all the questions you have, all your thoughts in the comment section down below. I need your help this week. Like the video if you haven't already. Aim is 1,000 as always. Subscribe if you are new around here, and I'll be back again very soon.